Kept you waiting, huh?
Actually, they're all emulators. No one really knows why those who survive Gnosis encounters always turn into one of them.
So that's the Kukai Foundation.
We hereby place the Kukai Foundation under arrest for acts of aggression against Federation vessels.
They did a good job doctoring that video. You don't think there are UTIC members within the subcommittee itself?
It's not inconceivable.
We need something that would give conclusive evidence of your innocence. We had a system with a AAA class encryption.
Cosmos!
What the?
Chapter 26, Cosmos' Subconscious. Once inside Cosmos' subconscious, the group is separated. Xian is alone but eventually meets up with Alan and Chaos, while Ziggy, Momo, and Junior are together elsewhere. The first person we see is Xian, who ends up in a memory of the destroyed old Miltia in front of the Labyrinthos HQ. After she freaks out over some thunder, she opens her eyes and she finds herself near the acute neurosis treatment facility before it was destroyed. There, she sees herself as a little girl on a swing set. Little Xian walks over to her dad, who tells her that they're going home as they can't see her mom at the moment, but they will visit her tomorrow. Then, after little Xian and her dad leave, Nephilim appears behind Xian, finally talking to her face to face instead of giving her cryptic messages in dreams. Nephilim tells Xian that she has been waiting a long time for all of them. Before she can continue, Alan and Chaos find their way to Xian. Both of them as confused as Xian. What seems to have happened is that Nephilim, existing in the imaginary domain as a non-Gnosis being, if you're confused about who Nephilim is, go watch the second video of the series, by the way, took advantage of the situation of Xian entering the Encephalon while the others were around her to pull everyone in. This is because she wanted to show Xian and Rubido something they must face from their past in order to fulfill the path that Nephilim will send them on. More on that later though. The reason why they end up on Old Miltia is because the memories of the group resonated with Cosmos' subconscious, resulting in Cosmos recreating Old Miltia in the Encephalon. The reason why it was Miltia specifically and not somewhere from Ziggy or Alan's memory is because memories become stronger and gain a higher priority when they resonate with other people's memories. And if you think back, Xian, Junior, and Chaos were all on Miltia during this specific time in history, and you could maybe say Momo, she was in Proto-Merkaba even though she hadn't been born yet. In other words, the memories that Cosmos is recreating are memories that have more common denominators in the group. This is all explained later by Chaos, but I decided to explain it now to relieve some confusion. Anyways, after Nephilim tells Xian that they, meaning her and Junior, must accept the whole of their memories, Xian continues forward as Chaos stays behind briefly and talks to Nephilim. Nephilim asks him if he's sure that this is the right thing to do, as after they do this, there is no turning back. But Chaos is sure, as he knows who Xian is, the reincarnation of Mary's maiden, and he knows that this makes her vital to the will of Mary resting inside of Cosmos' subconscious. The other group didn't get so lucky, however. Instead of ending up in a pretty park with a ghostly guide called Nephilim, the strongest memory that resonated in this group was Junior's. So where do they end up? The war zone of Old Miltia after the URTVs go crazy. All of them are as confused as Xian's group was, but Junior quickly figures out where they are. Ziggy questions Junior about where they are, but Junior, lost in his thought, doesn't answer, and when Ziggy presses him, Junior fires back angrily, as this is a day he has tried to forget about.
Junior,
What?
Fortunately, Goatman is good at always keeping a level head. After explaining to Ziggy and Momo where they are, Junior runs ahead of them and Momo and Ziggy follow behind them. When they regroup, they find that they are close to Labyrinthos HQ. There, they see the URTV shooting civilians and Little Gynam looking for Rubido as he kills the infected URTVs. We continue seeing memories of Old Milsha, but I've already gone over what happened during these memories when I explained Junior Negredo's and Albedo's fate in Old Milsha. Momo tries to comfort Junior as he is clearly under some mental distress, but once again, Junior angrily responds to Momo.
Junior? I said I'm fine! Sorry, I didn't mean to.
He's not only dealing with seeing memories from the worst day of his life, but he's still confused as to why they're there. As they continue forward, they approach the Labyrinthos Tower. From the bottom, they can see and hear Joachim giving his final biblical speech, the one he gave before he was mysteriously thrown off the building by an explosion. Momo, recognizing him, tries to run to him, but Ziggy stops her. Then, just as before, he's thrown off the building and Momo runs towards him, but he just goes right through her. And then everything around them just kind of disappears and they fall into a colorful void. When they come to, they're now in a forest. This is the same forest with the church where Fabronia resided. Here, the whole gang gets back together. Finally, we get an explanation as to why everyone got pulled into the Encephalon dive.
If Cosmos Oscillation Pulse caused a countercurrent to flow through the dive unit, it's not inconceivable. The ones we use are non-contact types, after all.
Ah yes, the oscillation pulse. Why didn't anyone think of the possibility of a countercurrent? Duh, it's so obvious. Noting how even the obvious countercurrent couldn't have caused this without some kind of external force, Xian realizes that the external force that caused this was probably Nephilim. The group entered the church and once inside they meet Fabronia, but Xian doesn't seem to remember her entirely. Momo mentions that even though she seems to be a Realian, she also senses something different, probably due to the fact that she's half human. Xian just stands there quietly looking at Fabronia, even ignoring Alan when he talks to her. However, when Fabronia introduces herself and Junior asks Xian if she knows her, Xian has a flashback to the night Fabronia died. Fabronia, realizing that Xian is remembering, gives a quick little smile. Although Xian now knows that she knows Fabronia in some way, she still doesn't remember exactly how, but she does know that she doesn't want to remember. I don't blame her. Not the prettiest flashback to have. The group follow Fabronia to a door in the church. There, Nephilim, who appears out of nowhere again, tells them that when they open the door, they will come face to face with themselves. In other words, they'll come to face with the memories that they have tried to or have completely forgotten. Something that will be a painful but important experience. Once they open the door, instead of an old abandoned church, they find themselves inside a hospital. Not just any hospital, the Acute Neurosis Treatment Facility, which isn't really even a hospital. Specifically, they're in the hall that leads to Xian's mom's room. They go into Xian's mom's room, and there, they see Xian's father and mother dead, as they were after the 27 series Asura Combat Realians attacked. Speaking of, we see 4 of those guys appear in the room and just kind of merge into each other and start turning into something bigger. Xian, being the only one who can see them, is horrified and starts to step back, as well as Junior. But Junior seems to be looking in a completely different direction. You see, Xian is seeing her own memories, but he is seeing the memory of Albedo losing his freaking mind after coming into contact with Udu. This is where that I'm not an anti-existence scene comes from. Then, when Albedo begins to laugh, he too begins to turn into something else. Then we're back in the hospital, where we see that even though both Xian and Junior are seeing different things, their memories are turning into the same thing. Both the 27 series Asura and Albedo turn into some weird 4-handed Gnosis, which they must now defeat. Because this Gnosis is an amalgamation of Xian and Junior's trauma, both of them must get a killing shot in order to defeat it. After they defeat the trauma Gnosis, the group appear in the imaginary world created by Cecily and Kath, the one that keeps them docile for the sake of the Udu Link system to continue. Yes, even now that system continues. This isn't the actual world that Cecil and Kath are in. Febrona just used Cosmos' Encephalon to recreate this world in order to explain to Xion and the rest what's going on with her sisters. After apologizing to Xion for making her go through what she went through, Febronia explains to the group that the version they see of herself under the tree is not really her. She then goes on to explain what I already went over in Act 2, the whole explanation of what this fake world is all about. Then Febronia asks Xion to release Cecily and Kath from their prison. She wants Xion to find their way to Old Miltia, find Cecily and Kath, and free them. Nephilim, who is also there, explains that being imaginary number domain beings, Febronia and her can only interact with them for a short while in a limited manner, which is why she did all of this while they were in the Encephalon. Nephilim then tells them that she wants them to change the future, and to explain this, she shows them a vision of a possible future. One of the possible futures that she's trying to avoid. In this future, Udo reawakens on Miltia, and Cosmos, now suited with her tertiary weapon systems, confronts him, or it. The confrontation ends in a catastrophe that engulfs such a large number of planets that it leaves a noticeable gap of stars in space. Remember, up to this point, our characters have only heard of Udo once or twice, but most of them, save Junior, don't really know anything about it. Nephilim tells them that this future is not set in stone and the future can be changed from the slightest deviations, essentially implying that Xion and the rest of them can be that deviation. Before the journey begins, Nephilim wanted them to face their past. Then, before disappearing, she tells them that she will tell them more when they return to Old Miltia. So there we have it, we have a goal now. Return to Old Miltia. After Nephilim disappears, a door materializes and Xion goes through it. Inside is a recreation of the tomb where Mary was buried back in ancient times. Of course, none of the characters know this, and nobody who's playing this game for the first time knew this. And of course, the reason Cosmos' mainframe looks like Mary's tomb in her subconscious is because Mary's consciousness lies inside Cosmos. Technically, it could be said that Cosmos' consciousness is Mary, as when she's acting as Cosmos, she doesn't really have a consciousness, so the only consciousness she has to speak of is Mary's subconscious, but it only comes out when she's in her blue eye form. In this room is a version of Cosmos hanging on a crudely sculpted cross. Then after Xion says out loud the same password that she used when entering the Encephalon in the beginning of the game, Cosmos begins to glow, and with that, they disarm Cosmos' subconscious domain protection in order to get the records of the battle in the Woglinde. Did you forget that this is what this was all about? Yeah, I kind of did the first time I played this. Back in the real world, Cosmos wakes up and is greeted by Xion. Then Xion hands over Cosmos' memory bank data to Captain Roman, who is now playing her role as the Federation military captain again. Roman, of course, accepts it and tells Xion to remain in the Miltian star system until they're cleared of all charges. We see how the events in the Encephalon left Junior and Momo a bit shaken up, and then we see Ganem walk into the Durandal Bridge after being released from his arrest. After Xion assures him that the girl's name was indeed Nephilim, Junior says that if she has anything to do with what he's thinking about, the Song of Nephilim, things are about to get really busy really soon. We then cut to the Durandal Park where Alan sits lamenting the fact that no matter how much he tries to help Xion, she never shares her pain with anyone, and that times like this remind him that he's just a subordinate to her. Alan's wish is that he could take Xion's tears away, a wish that Chaos assures him will happen one day. Chaos then goes on to tell him,
We've only known each other for a short while, but I can see that you have a good heart, Alan.
You're too nice, Chaos.
Inside Ganem's private headquarters, we see him speaking to Helmer, who informs him that the Federation fleet are preparing to leave the area as they are done reviewing Cosmos' records and are dropping the charges on Second Miltia and the Kukai Foundation. However, Helmer tells him to be careful as Utik is unlikely to give up Momo that easily. Finally, we see Xion resting in her room as she recalls the day. She worries about the fact that she just handed over top secret information to the government, saying,
I am so fired.
Then, after noting how sad Momo looked, she remembered how sad Alan looked when he asked her if she wanted a bite to eat and she rejected him. Her mind then wanders to what Nephilim and Fabronia told her about facing the past, Cosmos, and Udu. She comes to the realization that everyone playing this game for the first time came to understand at this point.
I don't understand any of it.
Chapter 27, The Song of Nephilim. We see Albedo sitting on some kind of throne in a room inside of the Song of Nephilim. There, Margulis tells Albedo that their trap didn't work, so he should prepare himself to activate the Song of Nephilim. Throwing a lifeless corpse of a 99 series observational unit Realian, Albedo laughs in excitement to hear that wonderful song again. Back in the Durandal, we see Chaos when the Song of Nephilim starts playing. It immediately gets his attention along with Junior and Gainam. Chaos, for the first time and I think the only time, loses his cool and he says that they must not allow that song to play.
Chaos?
That song, they mustn't allow it to play!
Matthews, Tony, and Hammer look at him in confusion, however, as only certain people can hear it, and they're not one of those people. Then we see Wilhelm and his Red Testament acknowledging the song, and Wilhelm simply says,
"So it begins."
The retreating Federation fleet begins being attacked by Gnosis, I think. Then the 100 series observational unit Realians in the Durandal begin to report a large-scale gate-out. It's, of course, the Gnosis. As the Gnosis approach the Kukai Foundation, Shelley and Junior decide to evacuate the civilians to the Durandal, as the Foundation may have to be abandoned. Then, right as Shion is asking about her, Cosmo shows up with perfect timing to activate the Hilbert effect. This buys them time as, although the Gnosis can still cause damage to the Foundation, the Hilbert effect will prevent them from materializing inside the colony. As everyone else volunteers to help with the evacuation, Shion looks at Cosmos, worried of the future that Nephilim showed her. However, she decides not to dwell on it, and tells Cosmos that they're counting on her, to which she responds,
"I am happy to be of service."
Good.
Amidst all the chaos, Albedo joins in the fun and begins attacking the eggs, fighting back the Gnosis, and he even attacks the Gnosis. He's just having fun.
Weak! They're all so weak!
After evacuating the colony, the group begin heading back to the Durandal, but Momo decides to stay back to help the injured. While helping the injured, Momo sees who she believes to be her father, Joachim. Bless her dumb little heart. She follows him to an alley in the colony where she loses him. Then, behind her, Albedo walks up to her and she loses consciousness. When the rest of the group go back to the colony to look for her, they, of course, can't seem to find her. Worried for her, Junior gets his 100 series to start searching for her. We cut to Momo passed out inside of the Song of Nephilim. When she wakes up, she tries to remember what happened, but upon realizing that she can't remember, she continues to walk. After mentioning a strange smell, she finds a 99 series Realian behind her, seemingly dead. Momo laments the fact that she didn't get to talk to her as she wanted to ask her questions about Joachim, but then the 99 series begins to move. She touches Momo's face and shows her some of her memories. One of which was Joachim looking at Momo before she was fully born or activated. Then she shows Momo a memory of Albedo breaking her neck. This showed Momo who it was that did this to her, Albedo. Like I said at the end of Act 2, although the Kurzwassers came to be attached to Albedo for some reason, he always abused them. Momo continues forward towards the throne room in the Song of Nephilim where Albedo resided. There, she finds corpses of the 99 series thrown all over the floor. This is what she was smelling, Realian corpses. This causes Momo to fall to her knees and gag, until Albedo gets her attention with a speech that, honestly, I can't do justice to. Most of it is pointless, but the delivery is just pure genius as it shows how out of his mind Albedo is. I'm just gonna let it play.
Such tears. What beauty they hold. Surely they are the most precious substance in the world. But are you worthy to shed such tears? The act of mourning the dead belongs to the realm of humans. Ah, my beautiful little Kirschwasser. But still, Can you really call this a corpse? Frailty, thy name is woman. No, that's not right. You little Realians weren't even born from a woman's womb. The human race, fearful in its weakness, built this world in a futile attempt to elude the abyss they call mortality. Culture, civilization, all delusions created by a powerless race, and of little use, like a barren woman. But amidst all this, you continue to exist as an unfettered soul, free from the shackles of flesh and blood, a completely pure consciousness, an eternal spiral, undefiled by impurities, a fusion of fire, breath, and spirit. What can we call you but angels? New, unadulterated psyches. But what you lack is reality, and that is what I shall provide you with! Ah, ma belle pêche. There's no need to tremble like that. Else, you'll make me feel like a péché myself. Was that a glimpse of a man that I caught in your heart? Who is it? This red-haired, Rubido. Oh, it's Rubido. Oh, that's just perfect. Do you know what he said while he coughed up his lifeblood? Except a corn of wheat fall into the ground and die, it abideth alone. Wheat, eh? There's enough of it. We can afford to waste as much as we want. Like my head, you see? What do you think, my beloved Pesh?
The whole point of this speech seems to have been purely to freak out Momo into fainting, so that he could search her subconscious for the Y data, and, well, mission accomplished. Back with the rest of the group, the Federation seems to be getting anxious as the Gnosis gate-outs are increasing and they're becoming overwhelmed. Realizing that their Gnosis are all gathering around the Kukai Foundation, the commanding officer of the Federation fleet assumes that this means that whatever is causing the Gnosis to gate out is inside the Kukai Foundation. Because of this, he commands the whole fleet to take aim at the Kukai Foundation. Mary quickly takes notice of the fact that the Federation fleet is now not only surrounding them, but aiming at them. And Shelly mentions that the Gnosis seems to all be moving around the Foundation, which gives him a good hint as to what the Federation is planning. However, the Zohar emulator's output is normal, so they're not the ones calling the Gnosis. As they try to figure out what is calling the Gnosis, Junior and Gainem communicate telepathically and they mention the song that they've both been hearing, the Song of Nephilim, and that it must be what is causing the Gnosis to appear. They're not entirely wrong. Remember, people still think that it was the Song of Nephilim that called the Gnosis back on Milsha, but it wasn't, it was Xion. The Song of Nephilim is just weakening the barrier between the real and imaginary number domain, which is why they're getting out even without the Zohar. Anyways, they both mention how nobody seems to hear it, and just in time, Xion says,
Hey, do you guys hear something? It sounds like a song.
Shion, having the same illness as her mother, which gives her an affinity to Uru, can also hear the song. The fact that she can hear the song seems to freak Junior and guide him out a bit. They both mentioned how they both feel an unsettling sense of darkness, and as it turns out, the thing giving them this feeling of dread is albedo. This seems to be the moment when they realize that albedo has something to do with this. As the Gnosis continue to endlessly gate out, the Federation fleet plans to fire on the Kukai Foundation, but as they're about to fire...
What was that?
Something seems to just disintegrate the Gnosis with ease. It's the Dameron, getting in the area just in time to use the amazing anti-Gnosis weapon called the Rhine Maiden. The Rhine Maiden is a massive anti-Gnosis sonic weapon that requires the Dameron along with 3 other ships to fire in unison. Or maybe they can fire separately, but they only do it in unison here because there's so many Gnosis? I don't know, but the Dameron arrives with 3 other flagships similar to the Woglinde, that being the Woglinde II, the Welgunde, and the Floshilde. As all the ships prepare to fire again, Wilhelm, seen in his office in the Dameron, gives the signal for the second wave of attack, and then...
The Rhine Maiden.
I could have probably made this shorter, but it's such a badass scene, and I love the Dameron. I'm not even sure why. Just look how big it is. The Kukai Foundation is a whole colony, and it's still tiny next to the Dameron. Anyways, now that the Gnosis threat is temporarily gone, the Federation fleet backs down a little. Shion then gets a call from Miyuki, one of her cutest, most annoying subordinates. After asking if Cosmos is with her, Miyuki transfers a weapon over to Shion through the UMN. It's a phase transfer cartridge. Miyuki tells Shion that there's some kind of man-made structure being hidden by a cloaking field, and that a PT cartridge can give Cosmos a weapon that could tear open the cloaking field to show what it's hiding, since it is most likely what is calling the Gnosis. Shion shows concern as a weapon like this could vaporize the star, but Cosmos assures her that she can safely use it if she limits the phase transfer mass. Yes. On top of this, Junior assures her that what they're dealing with is definitely the Song of Nephilim, which is what they believe destroyed Melsha and summoned the Gnosis. With all this knowledge, Shion decides to let Cosmos use the PT cartridge. Cosmos heads out into space to load the cartridge into her gun. Her gun then goes from a small pistol to a ridiculously huge transfer cannon. After scanning the area, Cosmos finds a wrinkle in the UMN which tells her that this is where the cloaking field is. After getting the go-ahead from Shelly, Shion tells Cosmos to fire away.
Cosmos, fire the phase transfer cannon!
Inside the Song of Nephilim, Albedo seems to have taken notice of the fact that they have found him. Then he lays Momo down and scans her subconscious for the white data? As he does so, Momo cries out to Junior and Ziggy before saying that she's scared. Back in the Durandal, Junior somehow picks up on Momo's cry. I don't know. To be sure of what he's sensing, Mary tells the 100 series to scan the Song of Nephilim, and they confirm that they have located Momo in the middle of the Song of Nephilim. Junior then says that the moment he heard Momo's voice, he also sensed Albedo. So maybe because Albedo is going through her subconscious and Junior and Albedo are kind of linked, that's why he could hear Momo? Not really sure. Ganem then says that this explains why he felt so unsettled before. I love that Albedo just gives them both a natural sense of feeling of dread. Alan asks who Albedo is, and Junior simply says that it's his dark half. Ziggy tells Junior to get the Durandal close to the Song of Nephilim and that he can go in by himself with a shuttle, but Junior stops him, telling him that he's the one that's going to save Momo. Ziggy tells him that he would essentially be a liability as...
When someone close to you is in danger, you lose your objectivity, and it almost always ends in tragedy. I've seen it happen too often.
Ziggy tells him that if he thinks he can confront Albedo and keep his head straight, then he should come, which angers Junior, as he feels like Ziggy sees himself as a more hardened soldier compared to him, which he kind of is. When Junior mockingly asks Ziggy how to become cold and detached like him, Ziggy replied with,
Only allow yourself to think of numbers and battle strategy. Don't let your mind wander to the faces or voices of those precious to you, even when it seems cruel not to. Too intense of an interference will overwhelm and ruin everything. That's what I've learned over these past 100 years.
The day numbers and battle strategies replace people, it'll be game over, Cyborg.
I love that he didn't even care that he insulted him. He took it on the chin and actually answered the question. Ziggy's a badass. Junior, however, brushes off his advice, and after Ziggy tells him that to stay focused no matter what Albedo does to Momo, Junior just walks away. As the Damarong and the Federation fleet continue to chew through the remaining Gnosis, the group head into the Song of Nephilim with the Elsa. But before they can make it, Xian asks Tony to drive around it towards the top. He's not sure why, but Xian asks him anyways. When he does, Xian's suspicions are confirmed. When she sees the top of the Song of Nephilim, she sees that it looks exactly like a structure that she could see from outside her mom's room in the acute neurosis treatment facility. That's because it is the same structure, except it's docked underground. The group then make it into the Song of Nephilim, where they find Momo lying underground. She's alive, but kind of catatonic. Junior assumes that Albedo took Momo's consciousness, but they quickly found out that's not what happened. When they make it to Albedo, they're surprised to find Momo unconscious on his lap. Then the Momo they found grabs Junior and chokes him. Apparently this is actually one of Albedo Kirswassers, except they're dead. And this is just her consciousness, which can apparently take different forms. This idea is never brought up again, and it definitely seems like a plot device constructed for the purpose of allowing you to continue using Momo in fights while inside the Song of Nephilim, but whatever. Forced to use some of his URTV powers, Junior blasts the alien away. As Albedo continues to search through Momo, Junior becomes enraged and shoots Albedo, but of course this has no effect on him other than a temporary inconvenience. Albedo then starts goading Junior on to try to get him to use his true power as a URTV, as he believes Junior has forgotten who he is and what he did 14 years ago. Junior just demands that he gives her back, but Albedo tells him that he's going to continue taking what he wants and along the way make him remember who he really is. When Junior calls Albedo a freak contaminated by Udu, Albedo says that he considers himself evolved by Udu, not contaminated, saying how those waves that flooded him, the Udu waves, are now part of him, much like when Yuriev came into contact with Udu and left a trace of it inside him.
I am the Alpha and the Omega of perfect consciousness!
Stop it!
Junior continues to try to shoot him, but again it does nothing. He should know better. Ziggy is amazed by how he was able to regenerate his whole head, wondering if it's nanotechnology, but Xian tells him that not only can nanotech not work that fast, but they could never regrow a freaking head. That's when Chaos tells him that he and Junior are URTVs, weapons created for the eradication of Udu. Albedo then reveals how he seems to really feel about Junior after what he did on Milsha, that is, abandoning his duty on Milsha, and more importantly, abandoning him. He says that he is cruel and only cares for himself. As he breaks through the final layer of protection inside Momo, Momo screams in pain and Rubido unleashes his power, but he's a breath too late. We cut to what seems to be the perspective of Albedo inside Momo's subconscious. Albedo reaches the Y data inside Momo and sifts through it. There, he learns a lot from the Y data, but even within the Y data, something seems to be locked away, so he only gets an incomplete version of it. Back to reality, Albedo is blasted back by Rubido's power and drops Momo. The group huddle over around Momo to check on her as Obito gets up laughing as he now understands much more what's happening. He says it all makes sense now as he looks at Cosmos and Shion. This possibly means that he has become aware of things involving Mary, the Maiden of Mary, and Zarathustra. Joachim knew a lot of shit. I'm not even sure how Joachim came across this information. Albedo's ES then arrives on the scene, and he, along with the consciousness of his Kirschwasser, float up and inside of it. The Kirschwasser merges with the ES, which seems to make it stronger, and the battle against ES Simeon begins. After fighting it for a while, they still don't manage to destroy the ES or even harm Albedo. However, Albedo floats back down, telling Rubido that after that fight, it seems he's getting closer to his older self. So Albedo challenges him using some kind of black aura power, which Rubido counters with using his red dragon power, which looks like some kind of red aura power. Anyways, this power is precisely what Junior has been trying to avoid using, but it's also precisely what Obito has been wanting Junior to use, as he wants him to remember who he is. Negredo, sensing what's happening, screams out to Rubido as he knows that he could lose control of himself if he lets himself go to full red dragon mode. Even Chaos knows that what could happen, but his warnings fall on deaf ears. Momo then wakes up, and after talking to a Kirschwasser who tells her how envious of her the 99 series Realians were, as Joachim always looked at her with much more love than them, Momo gets up and does something, which stops the colorful aura madness. Man, I don't know what she does. She just does. Momo berates Albedo for how he's always hurting people, especially the Kirschwassers, who also something Albedo for some reason. The Kirschwassers, who she considers her sisters, but Albedo just continues to laugh at her words, telling her that amongst all her dead sisters, she's the one flower that blooms as Mizrahi wanted. Considering that he turns to Junior and asks Junior if he's lying, I think he's talking about the fact that she's the one that Joachim cared most about, since she was supposed to be Sakura's new body, and even after, he saw Momo as a daughter much more than any other Realian he made. Junior, obviously knowing all about Sakura and why Momo was created, tells him to shut up, and Shion jumps in telling him,
"Those girls were toys for your enjoyment. They were all individuals with wills of their own, yet you..."
Still spouting that self-righteous crap?
A familiar voice then cuts her off, and we see that Wilhelm has been growing his army. Now he has a Blue Testament as well. Albedo calls him the new guy. After the Testament tells Albedo to stop screwing around, Albedo walks off to ES Simeon. Junior tries to stop him, but the Testament blocks his path with a force field. We then see Albedo inside his ES scanning what he got of the Y data. There we see that he reached a point that seems to be protected with a vision of Cosmos and naked Shion. I don't entirely get it, man, not gonna lie. Anyways, Albedo just says that this makes it more interesting for him, as he now has to find a way to get that last bit of data, namely the bit of data that shows how to get back to Old Milsha, where Proto Omega and the original Zohar are. Back in the Song of Nephilim, Shion asks the Blue Testament who he is, and he goes into a cryptic rant which ends with no answer. Typical. Junior demands that he gets out of the way, and the Blue Testament tells him to make him move, as it should be no problem for a URTV. However, Blue Man just wanted to show off, because after they battle with him, they wear themselves out, and the Testament remains completely unscathed, as he says,
"It's useless. The laws by which we are governed are just too different. Isn't that right, boss?"
I just noticed even Cosmo seems worn out. After realizing that Albedo is far enough, as he just wanted to buy him time, the Blue Testament begins to walk away. When Shion asks him what he's trying to accomplish, he gives the most laughably vague answer ever.
"Then come to that time, to that place. You know what I mean."
Huh?
He meant Old Milsha during the Third Descent operation. Stupid JRPG bad guys and their crypticness. Yes, he's asking her to time travel. Don't worry about it, it'll make sense later. Much later. After Cosmos confirms that the Song of Nephilim has ceased all functions and the Right Maiden is clearing away the remaining Gnosis, Junior wonders who the Blue Testament was, as he had incredible power. Shion once again reads our minds and says,
I don't understand any of this.